Anissa here with Firehouse Education and this week's Ask Anissa video column. And this week, our question has come from Tiffany, and Tiffany sent me an email, and here's what she said. Hey Anissa, love the videos. Thank you so much for doing them. Your advice is always spot on. So when I had something come up for me, I thought you were the girl to ask. So here's my question. I am getting a lot of complaints from clients, especially on the content side of our company. As a general rule, we are getting a lot of not really ecstatic clients. And I was wondering if you had any advice for me and maybe how I can figure out what is at the root of all of this. Thank you so much again for the videos that you do. Me and my crew love them. We watch them all every week. And thank you again for taking the time to answer my question. Okay, that is a definitely tough spot to be in if you don't feel like you can really put your finger on it. What I want to do, Tiffany, is I want to share with you what I have found to be usually at the root of customer complaints, especially when it comes to the content side of our processing in our restoration company. The number one thing that I find is not being met, or if I start feeling like they're just not that raving, amazing experience that I want them to have, like they're not having that, what I'll often find is that at the root of all of it, there is a problem with them feeling like they're being heard or understood. So it really boils down to really good communication. So the first thing that I would do is, if you have a supervisor or manager in your contents division, I would make sure that that person is really confident and comfortable when they're talking with your homeowners. The other thing is, if that person has not had any kind of training with how to handle clients in this situation, maybe there's some concern there that you might look at. Another thing that I would recommend that you take a look at is to really take a look at what are your standard operating procedures. What systems do you have in place that take your client from the initial sign-on all the way through the job to handle their concerns and their part in the process, especially when you're dealing with log destroyed. What are your systems in place, your SOPs that handle that client from start to finish? Do you have them in place to begin with? And the ones that you have in place, are they working? Are they working? Have you done follow-up with your team that's using them to know that they're actually helping ensure that your clients, every client has the same exact extraordinary experience every time when they're dealing with your company? Another really big thing that if you're not doing could be why you can't put your finger on this is, are you asking your customers for testimonials? Are you checking in with your client? And I don't mean just ask them for testimonials at the end of the job. When I start a job, I set it up and let my client know I will be asking you for a testimonial, and you're going to be so ecstatic with the work that we do for you that you're going to happily give us a raving video testimonial. I set that up at the beginning. Then I ask about halfway through the job if they feel comfortable at that point doing that testimonial video for me. I almost always get them about halfway through, and that is huge, because that means you're not waiting to the end of the job to check in, right? And ask, hey, how did we do? Because at the end of the job, it's going to be a lot harder to fix something if you didn't do really great. So if you ask more towards the middle of the job, you've still got some time to be able to maybe tweak things, fix something, and possibly even, rebuild relationship if something has gone, that wrong. The other thing that I would recommend is to make sure that part of your standard operating procedures is that you do have checklists and checkpoints, if you will, with quality control with your clients. So not only checkpoints where you're checking on people's work randomly that are handling the contents, but actually conversing and touching your client throughout the job. Depending on what's going on with the structure, you could have these people's contents in, a storage facility or your warehouse for a couple of months. Don't let there be 2 or 3 weeks go by with zero touching them. Now, that doesn't mean you have to pick up the phone necessarily and call them, but I mean, it might. But a letter, a client newsletter is a wonderful thing to get them on so that they get some communication from you. Feel like you're reaching out to them. It can even just be a simple email checking in with them and asking them how things are going. Because you may not be doing the structure, right? If you are doing the structure, then you should be touching them, and having communication. So that wouldn't be so much a problem. But oftentimes, especially if you're just doing the contents, there gets to be several weeks there of silence, and that can potentially make the client feel disconnected with you. And that's what they aren't feeling. If they're really complaining, they're not feeling connected to you. They don't feel like their concerns are being heard or handled, and they just often are feeling in the dark. And I hear that a lot, that they feel like they don't know what's going on. They feel like they're in the dark. So communication is huge. That will go a long way to help your customer complaints. Having standard operating procedures in place where your clients are being dealt with in a system from the very beginning of their job starting to the very end is also very huge. And the third thing, again, that I would tell you is be sure that you are asking for your customer feedback. You know what? A testimonial is not only huge in this kind of situation to help you keep your finger on the pulse, but it's also huge when it comes to marketing. That's one of the best ways that you can market, is for someone to hear social proof where your last client is talking about how great a job that you did. All right. Well, I hope that answered your question. Thank you so much for the email. I want to remind you to please be sure and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Give me a thumbs up if you're watching this video on the YouTube channel, and be sure that you are one of the cool kids and subscribe to rnrmagonline.com's e-newsletter. And on that note, I will see you on next week's Ask Anissa video column.